We're on to item number 11B. This is alcohol license suspending hearing, Field House Bar and Grill. Resolution finding the Field House Bar and Grill violated Section 4-2-2, parenthesis B, of the City Code by serving alcohol on floors other than the ground floor without qualifying for an exception, allowing service and consumption on more than the ground floor level, and imposing a 14-day alcohol license suspension under City Code Section 4-2-5, parenthesis C, parenthesis 1, and parenthesis C, parenthesis 4. All right. The city attorney will be presenting the case, so we'll have Assistant Johnson County Attorney David Van Compernol, who is here to advise the council. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. All right, so we're going to move to a motion, which is number 1, for a continuance distributed in the 120 late handouts. The petitionee's motion and presentation for continuance. Maybe we'll have some commentary on that at this time.
Yeah, so I think yesterday afternoon, Permittee's council made a request to postpone the hearing that was scheduled for this evening. I am not the decision maker, you all are, and so my advice was to put it on the agenda before any potential hearing, so you could take argument from both sides and decide whether you want to grant that extra time or not. But that's sort of why that is there.
Okay. First, I want to go ahead and accept correspondence. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved,
the late
Mo.
handout.
Second.
Moved by Mo, seconded by Salah. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So the motion before us that we just heard is the late handout, which is requesting a continuation and not for us to hear this tonight. I guess we can have some discussion, questions at this time from council, should there be any at this time.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, perhaps hear from the permittee first and the city attorney's response, and then you can ask questions back and forth of the parties before you render your decision.
All right, great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. My name is Eric Hartman, and I represent the permittee in this matter. We submitted this request because the city has filed dueling municipal infraction allegations against my client, both in Johnson County District Court and in front of the council, alleging violations of city code, both of which involve the same facts and circumstances, and both of which we assert allege involve similar issues of whether application of this ordinance would violate state law and whether or not my client is acting as a restaurant. We believe it would be appropriate, since this matter is subject to judicial review, we think it would be prudent to wait for the court's determination. This matter is presently, or not this matter, the competing Johnson County District Court citation is set for a hearing on February 25th. So we think it would be prudent to continue the matter to hear the court's ruling on our arguments at that time before we decide the matter before the council.
Any questions by council at this time? Hearing none. Well, I don't know if the city has any response to this you would like to share.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name's Liz Craig. I'm an assistant city attorney for Iowa City. The city does want to go forward and suggest that you should go forward with the hearing tonight. This has been scheduled since December 3rd of 2025. The issue in the municipal infraction court case is different than the issue that you're looking at today. The municipal infraction was issued for a zoning violation, and that has to do with where drinking establishments can be located in relation to each other. And the issue that you're asked to decide tonight is whether the Field House obtained an alcohol license in 2025 and represented that it would be operating as a restaurant, and that it should not have been able to obtain an alcohol license for all 3 floors of 138 South Clinton Street by representing that it would operate as a restaurant and then not operate as a restaurant. So those are different issues. The resolution of one is not going to resolve the other one, so it's the city's position that it's appropriate to go forward on the alcohol suspension hearing tonight.
Great, thank you. Any questions by council? There are no questions. Could I get a motion to continue hearing to March 11th, 2026? So, just like with anything, there's a motion, and then we'll be able to come and vote.
Or if nobody makes a motion, then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Correct?
So, correct. So, is there a motion to continue the hearing to March 11th, 2026? Is there a motion to continue the hearing to March 11th, 2026?
No.
Hearing none, motion fails. We're going to move on to item number 2, which is the hearing. And then we'll just ask for the city to come at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm Liz Craig, and I'm an assistant city attorney. I'm going to give you a brief overview about the legal background for this hearing tonight. The city managers here and Lieutenant Rob Cash from the Iowa City Police Department are also here if you have additional questions. First, I want to point out an error to you in the exhibits. There's an exhibit that's labeled Exhibit 16 and says it's a Daily Iowan article. It's actually an email from November 7th from the city manager to Mr. Barkalow and Mr. Hughes. I just wanted to make that clear to you in case you're clicking through your exhibits tonight as I give my presentation. The legal issue in front of you tonight is whether the Field House violated city ordinances by obtaining a license to sell and serve alcohol on all 3 floors of 138 South Clinton Street when it is not operating as a restaurant, as it said it would when it obtained its alcohol license in January of 2025. Iowa City Code 422B is a public safety regulatory requirement involving the premises of liquor licenses. It says that in general, unless a business qualifies as a certain type, such as a restaurant, it can't obtain a liquor license for more than the ground floor of a building. This is because it's more difficult to quickly and effectively respond to emergencies in buildings with multiple floors, and public safety incidents happen more often in bars versus restaurants, hotels, theaters, and businesses whose primary function is something other than the service of alcohol. The facts and the timeline of the Field House obtaining an alcohol license for all 3 floors are outlined in my memo. There are 3 phases that are important here. Number 1 was the approval of the building permit for a new restaurant and bar in November 2024 for the old Active Endeavors building, 138 South Clinton Street. The second is the approval of the alcohol license in January of 2025, almost exactly a year before tonight. And number 3 is the actual operation of the Field House since it opened on November 6th of 2025. During the building permit stage, starting in the spring of 2024, city staff explained that this space would have to be a restaurant in order to have an alcohol license on all 3 floors. And if you look at Exhibit 2, you can see notes that Building Inspection Services staff put on the plans for one of the initial plans that set forth the entire definition of a restaurant. Plans for a restaurant and bar were approved in November of 2024 with a kitchen that was deemed adequate for a menu that was provided by the Field House. And that was a full menu that had appetizers, salads, sandwiches, and desserts. And you can look at that menu at Exhibit 3. The photo in the Field House's exhibits shows the 3 compartment sinks that are required to meet the definition of a restaurant kitchen, which was a requirement that staff pointed out during the building permit process. When the corporate owner of the Field House applied for a liquor license in January of 2025, it was again represented to city staff that this would be a restaurant. The building plans that had been approved in November were attached to the license application and included all 3 floors. Staff again informed the licensee that this would have to be a restaurant to have an alcohol license that covered all 3 floors. The alcohol license was recommended for approval by staff on the basis that it would be a restaurant. The Fieldhouse opened on November 6th of 2025. Under Iowa City Code 411, which defines restaurant, it has not operated as a business whose primary function is the service of food to customers, which is the definition of a restaurant. Officers who have been in the premises have never seen a food being served or evidence of food service. Officers have been there at various times in the evening, in November on 5 occasions, in December 10 times, and have been there on 8 occasions in January so far. Officers have never seen a food menu. There's a document that says it's a menu in the packet of exhibits that the Fieldhouse submitted tonight, but officers have never actually seen a menu on the premises, and recently social media does not reveal the menu that we found were given in the packet as well. So it'll be new information to find out where that menu is actually located. As recent as January 16, when asked by an officer about what food was available, a bartender read what types of pizza were available off of the registered computer screen. But no physical menu was handed over to the officer at that time, and none could be seen. Fieldhouse staff has said that they don't have servers, and on at least one occasion, the bar staff was working as the kitchen staff, bar staff, and the door person. There's no dispute that the Fieldhouse has an adequate kitchen to be a restaurant, and you can see those sinks in the Fieldhouse's exhibits, but an adequate kitchen is just one factor in what makes a restaurant under the city's definition of a restaurant under 411. The business must still actually operate as a restaurant. The hours of food service available have been inconsistent and have not reached the 60% threshold that's required by the ordinance. The Fieldhouse advertises as being open from 6 o'clock p.m. and closing at 2 a.m., but staff has said the kitchen closes at 10 p.m. One staff said that it opens at 9 p.m. There have been inconsistent hours of operation for the restaurant service. You can take a look at the social media posts and press articles that are in your exhibits from Exhibit 14 to 17. The Fieldhouse holds itself out as a bar, does not hold itself out as a restaurant. There's occasionally ads about pizza and hot dogs available. This evening, our office received a picture that was a poster, appears to be in the Fieldhouse window for $12 pizzas, but the test is whether the primary function is food service. And it's clear, I think, from the factors in 411 that the primary function is not food service. You can ask the Fieldhouse representatives tonight about the specifics of their restaurant business. For example, what are the days and hours that the kitchen is open? Where can customers find the food service menu? How does food get served with no servers? What percentage of sales comes from food? But tonight, the city's asking council to decide that the Fieldhouse has violated local ordinances in obtaining a liquor license for all 3 floors of 138 South Clinton Street because it's not operating as a restaurant as it represented. The suspension of the alcohol license requested is for 14 days, which is the time frame that staff has estimated would take to allow the Fieldhouse to transition its business from a bar to a restaurant and also provide accountability for previous violations. During that time, the Fieldhouse would be able to be open and conduct other lawful business, such as selling food, but it could not sell, serve, or allow the consumption of alcohol. Council's suspension, if it chooses to impose one, may be appealed by the Fieldhouse to the Department of Revenue, and the suspension would not go into effect until after that appeal had taken place. And the Department of Revenue, which now has the alcohol division in it, will hold its own hearing as well. Once again, the city recommends suspension, a 14-day suspension of the Fieldhouse's alcohol license. And I'm happy to take questions.
Did you say that the 14-day suspension would not go in effect until after, if an appeal was done, after that was resolved?
That's correct, yeah.
I can actually go through the evidence myself through the memos, but do you have an estimate of how many times, and this is in the early process with city staff, when there's the application to become a restaurant to get how many times staff talked about this is for what needs to happen for you to be a restaurant because there are 3 floors. You mentioned that early in your presentation, and I'm
Right.
just wondering if there's an estimate of the summary of how many times staff.
Well, certainly, I think there's an email in the exhibits that staff informs the owners of the field house that it's going to have to be a restaurant if it's going to have a liquor license. Then again, it's on some plans set forth in full by
Right.
Building Inspection Services. There was, in January 2025, there was a letter by the city attorney's office after the city actually received the application for the liquor license that said, if this is going to be on all 3 floors, it's going to need to operate as a restaurant. In July 2025, this would have been still before the opening of the field house. The city manager did send a letter, once again, reiterating that point. And then November 7th, which was the day after the field house opened, once again, the city manager did send an email to the field house with the same information.
Thank you for the summary.
So the 14-day suspension, if that, if it's passed today, certainly there could be an appeal. And if there's an appeal, then that 14-day suspension is halted, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you explain the appeal? Like, when you say appeal, it just means like they just appeal again and prove that they are a restaurant and you give them the license back. That's what it is?
So it would be an appeal of the suspension that council has imposed to the Department of Revenue, which is formerly the ABD.
Okay.
And
Is
then there's a process that occurs at the Department of Revenue where they make their own determination about the suspension decision. So this,
Okay, then my question will be, this suspension, I just want to understand, this suspension now for 14 days, and after that, if they prove they are like a restaurant, they have menu, they have everything, they can have the license back? Or
yes, it's just a suspension. It's not a revocation of the
Okay.
alcohol license.
Sure.
And if at the end of the 14 days, if they're not operating as a restaurant, as the code or their application, from what we see right now, has indicated, at the end of the 14 days, let's say there was no appeal, what happens at that point?
I think that we would have to evaluate the facts and circumstances that existed at the time to see if there would need to be additional enforcement action taken, if I'm understanding your question, Mayor.
Sure. So at the end of the 14-day, we're allowing time for them to essentially become a restaurant and show the evidence. But at
Right.
the end of the 14 days, if that doesn't take place, then does it just end? And they get to operate within their license because this council would have only allotted for 14 days. Is there something that we should be considering should they not come into compliance?
Right, so I think if you approve the 14-day suspension tonight, it will only be for 14 days. You could approve a suspension for longer than that, but I think whatever suspension you do approve tonight, that's going to be the amount of time, and there won't be the ability later on to extend it. You know, if staff goes in, I think we would probably have to take additional enforcement action at that point.
Okay.
As I look at the building permit application, I see, or excuse me, the permit plans, I see lots of tables and chairs, which is kind of a hallmark of a place that serves food. I can't tell from the social media photos, are those tables and chairs in the space with like menus and food service on them, or?
We haven't seen evidence of tables and chairs with menus and food service. There are high-top bar tables, not
Is it-
traditional dining seating like you would expect at a restaurant.
Does it match even close to what's in the application?
I have not gone through to match up table for table exactly what's there. I can tell you there are tables within the establishment, but it's not dining seating
Yeah.
like you might see at a sit-down restaurant, you know.
Okay.
Just a couple things, just to make sure, for complete clarity. When city staff, about a year ago, I think you said this, I just want to nail it down. City staff gave us the recommendation for us to pass this liquor license that we did pass. That was based on things like the menu that was listed as one of the exhibits that lists what you would think of as a typical restaurant menu, right? Not just 2 or 3 items, but a full menu, correct?
Right, so the city receives the alcohol application. We didn't receive a menu as part of the alcohol application. The menu was received as part of the building permit process to make sure that the field house had an adequate kitchen to run a restaurant.
Right, okay.
And so those plans were then approved for the restaurant in November of 2024, and those plans were attached to the alcohol application in January of 2025, and that's what city staff recommended for approval for all 3 floors of that space.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
If we had known that the circumstances as they exist today if we'd known it was going to play out this way, would staff have recommended the issuance of the liquor license for multiple floors?
No, the application was approved and recommended by staff to be approved based on the representations that this would be a restaurant. And I think that's where the menu becomes important. You know, staff was presented with a menu during the building permit process that appeared to be a full restaurant menu. And if staff had known that there wouldn't be food service, that was the primary function of this business, staff wouldn't have recommended approval of the alcohol license application because, you know, at that point, or at least not for the 3 floors, at that point, the field house would not have been in compliance with the premises requirement in 422B.
And at that time, it was called New Restaurant, not Field House.
It was not called the Field House at that time, but the corporate owner has remained the same throughout.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here are no other questions. Thank you.
thanks.
All right. We'll invite you up to speak at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned before, my name's Eric Hartman, and I represent the permittee in this matter. The Field House has been an Iowa City institution for a long time, and my client has put in a significant amount of resources and effort to revive it. The city simply cannot suspend its alcohol license tonight because it's been operating as a restaurant, contrary to the claims of the city's attorney. We submitted today a few documents that I believe you've reviewed. I just want to run through some of these. I agree that a business whose primary function is the service of food to customers is what's required, and quite frankly, the Field House does that. The first factor is whether it prepares meals on the premises and provides meal services to each floor. Here we've, whoa, that's moving fast. Here we've got a floor plan showing we've got 3 floors. The Field House provides meal service to every floor. The food is served on all floors while the kitchen is open. The second factor is whether there's a food service menu from which customers may order. Yes, a different menu was submitted when the application was made, but there's no requirement that that menu stay exactly the same or that that menu can't change. A different owner submitted the application, and the business was sold. So the items on the menu changed to account for supply and demand as any business may work. And if you look, here's a copy of the menu. I'm advised that the hot dog baskets are being released, are being released about now. My client is here and can take questions on that if there are more questions. The next factor is having an employee whose primary duty is preparation of food and whose primary duty is to serve food to customers. The Field House has such employees. There's always one person scheduled whose primary duty is to prepare food, and there's always a person scheduled whose primary duty is to serve food. That doesn't mean that's all those people are doing. That doesn't mean they can't do other things. The next factor is whether there's a kitchen separate from the bar and whether there's 2 3-compartment sinks. We meet that. The next factor is whether there's restaurant service operating during at least 60% of the hours the business is open to the public. Again, the Field House meets that. It sells food from when it opens, I believe, until 1:30 in the morning. The next factor is whether it holds itself out to be a restaurant and advertises itself as a restaurant. I guess I would start this by noting that no restaurant simply advertises food. Every restaurant makes significant revenue from the sale of alcoholic beverages. So the expectation is not that the restaurant or the Field House advertises based on no alcohol. The expectation instead should be, does it advertise similarly to other similarly situated restaurants in the area? And it does. If you look at, this is a little zoomed out here, but we've got a picture on the Field House's Instagram page advertising pizza, various flavors. Again, we've got a picture advertising hot dog baskets. And again, we've got more advertisements showing food. The last factor is whether there's a cafe or a lunchroom. And if you look at the plans, it's clear that, as Councilman Moe was asking earlier, that there are areas for food service, and food service is happening there. Secondly, there are a few legal issues with the council's request to suspend the liquor license. I don't have a copy of it here with me today, but Iowa Code Section 123.39 subsection 2 does give local authorities the power to adopt ordinances or regulations for the location of retail alcohol license establishments, and but that's limited to to say that those ordinances cannot diminish the hours during which alcoholic beverages may be sold. We believe that the code, the city code in this case, section 4-2-2 and 14-4A-4F, are irreconcilable with state law because our client is a restaurant, and those code sections prohibit restaurants from selling alcohol on each floor between midnight and 2 a.m., which contravenes section 123.392 and code section 364.3, which again prohibits cities from issuing standards and requirements that are more stringent than those imposed by state law. And another legal issue in this case is that the city approved the Class C liquor license, in this case, to 3 floors of the premises. And the city here is seeking to enforce section 4-2-2B, saying that restaurants, but not drinking establishments, drinking establishments, but not restaurants, can operate on multiple floors. And if you look at the state code, section 123.3 sub 29 provides that a licensed premises includes all the rooms, all the floors, all of it. And by trying to enforce 4-2-2B, the city is wrongfully seeking to prevent my client from serving alcohol on all floors of the premises. And again, that is contrary to the scheme contemplated by section 123.492, which sets forth the time that establishments licensed to sell alcohol can sell alcohol, and it's contrary to the definition of a licensed premises. So we think those are legal issues that prevent the council from enforcing section 4-2-2B against the Field House. Finally, we wanted to note for the record that other similar establishments do sell alcohol on multiple floors and have not had these issues. We note that Reunion Bar, Double Tap, Summit Bar, and The View are all areas and establishments that sell alcohol on multiple floors, and continue to operate today. In response to some comments made by the city attorney, officers who stop by the field house are not there all the time. They stop by infrequently, presumably based on issues with patrons. The staff aren't here to answer questions. My client is here to answer questions about what food may be sold, when it may be sold, when the kitchen is open. Media articles simply describe and rephrase things. They are not direct evidence of what's actually happening. The advertisements in this case speak for themselves. And there's no requirement under the city's code section that the city attorney seeks to enforce today, saying that a percentage of sales is required to show that you are a restaurant. So for those reasons, we think that the city's motion should be denied and that the Fieldhouse's alcohol license should remain in effect.
Any questions by council?
You had mentioned that the field house serves food until 1:30 in the morning? A few minutes
Yes,
ago,
and
you mentioned that.
do you have questions on details of that? I mean,
Well, I'm just saying, while they're also serving alcohol till 1:30 in the morning?
That's my understanding, yes.
Can city staff remind me what time are restaurants supposed to quit serving alcohol according to city ordinance?
That depends on the type of establishment. If it's an eating or drinking establishment, really the time is not at issue here. It's really where the alcohol is being served.
Okay.
So the time of the alcohol service really doesn't come into your analysis about where the alcohol is being served. It's a difference about where within one building the licensee can serve alcohol versus, I think that's getting into the drinking establishment 500-foot issue about the timing.
Okay.
And that's where those establishments can be located in relation to each other.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned you had compared, tried to make a comparison between the Field House and other bars and restaurants downtown, and you'd mentioned the Reunion Brewery. Have you eaten there?
I have not.
Have you seen their menu?
I have not.
They do a full kitchen. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and I don't want to do like a free advertising for anybody, but if you take a look at that and you take a look at what you've given us, I mean, I don't think that's a fair comparison.
Frozen pizza.
I just want to throw that out there, that I think that we have people operating downtown that are following the city ordinances just fine. And to say that they're the same and that they get special treatment, I think is not a fair judgment. Just want to throw that out there because.
Was there a question there?
No, I think I asked my question, so thank you.
I have a couple small questions. You've provided as, in the exhibits, I think, 2 or 3 social media posts regarding the availability of food. If we looked at the entirety of social media posts for the Field House, what's the proportion of advertising for food versus advertising for alcohol?
I don't have those statistics in front of me today. I could ask my client to. Yeah, we don't have that information here today.
Okay. And you did mention that there's not a threshold for the amount of sales of alcohol versus food, but what are the proportions of sales as far as revenue of alcohol to food?
Well, and that's part of the reason that we requested to delay the hearing is that we just don't have that detailed information with us here today.
Are you asserting that it's more food than alcohol?
I don't have the information necessary to make that assertion today.
Okay.
There are dates for these posts, the ones that you're showing us.
They may be on there.
It's a little hard to see.
It's not here.
Sorry about that.
Fine.
This one's from December 30th, just a couple weeks ago.
When did you start serving food? I mean, it opened as serving alcohol. When did you start serving food?
Day one.
If there is,
I'd like to answer that. My name's Tracy Barkalow. I'm one of the owners of the Field House. The food was from day one. And to address the reunion comment, Jim Montanaro is in support of us being open and operating at what we are right now as an eating establishment. I've had discussions with him as of today, and he operates the reunion. And the reunion, the code section, if you look at the code section that they've put in this notice for us, reunion was opened after 1997. So therefore, the reunion would not be exempt under the ordinance that you've notified us on, it would actually not be able to serve alcohol on the first or on the second floor or in the basement like it does now. Double Tap serves in the basement. It's not available on the first floor. The view's obviously rooftop, so you won't even be able to see that. So it would be apples to apples on use and comparison. And Polly Eyes only sells pizza, so we are a comparable restaurant to a Polly Eyes. Not probably the best quality. We're working on it, but we do sell pizza just like Polly Eyes Pizza does.
Frozen pizza.
Is it your principal business to sell pizza?
Yes, it is. And we're working on making it better.
I have a question about food preparation. Latza Matza is a frozen pizza from Hy-Vee.
We have food preparation on that. We also have food preparation on the actual hot dogs. I don't do the day-to-day operations down there. I'm just an investor in the business. But we do have full-time staff that cooks, preps relish, preps things for the hot dogs and things like that, as well as things to go on, additional items on top of the matza matza. I don't know the entire process right this second, but it's not just frozen pizza.
So when hiring staff for the field house, was one of the listed jobs a cook?
Yes, we have people that are cooks, correct. Yep, that are just on shift as cooks.
As cooks for Latza Matza.
For more than 60%, if you look at the code too, the requirement for the code is 60% of the time that we have to sell food, we sell it 100% of the time. So if you look at the ordinance itself, it's only required to be sold 60% of the time, which most places in town stop selling at 10 p.m.
I want to make sure that council don't have any more questions for either the city attorney or the assistant city attorney, or for the permitters, Eric Hartman. Any other questions for either of them at this point? Okay, all right. I'm going to ask for a motion for approval, please.
So moved, Harmson.
Second Wyline.
Okay, council discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification. The motion to approve is a motion to approve the resolution that's in your packet.
Correct.
Can we maybe redo the,
Oh, it's just to make it clear? Yeah, all right. So I'll just restate the motion. So could I get a motion to approve the resolution that is, that's in our packet
Which would be for the 14-day suspension.
for the
Yes.
14-day suspension, correct?
So moved.
Moved by Harmson,
Second.
seconded by Burgess. All right.
Okay.
And then council discussion.
The 14-day suspension is for
The 14-day
the
suspension.
alcohol, not the food.
Correct.
And
That
the
would be for
principal
the
business is
alcohol
food.
license, yeah.
Yes.
What it looks like to me is what our staff, I think in the memo sent to us, because I looked through a lot, like all of this multiple times. I think I would agree with the assessment of the restaurant requirement being quote unquote openly flaunted. I think that was put correctly in the memo.
I agree too. I just based on the record that we saw on the package, I find that the violation occurred, and the 14-day suspension recommended by the staff authorized by the code, and proportionally to the violation. I will be voting yes for this.
In staff's memo, in the multiple documents, there was one of the definition of a restaurant provided in Iowa City Code of Ordinance, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 subparts to it, and I feel that what was provided to us as evidence and as exhibits demonstrates very clearly the ways in which each piece of what constitutes a restaurant was violated. So I will be voting in support of this resolution.
I just want to state that it is absolutely not credible that the principal business of the Field House Bar is pizza. And I believe it is a bar, and primarily a bar, and not operating as a restaurant.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you guys have kind of said it, so I agree.
All right, are we ready to take a vote?
Yes.
All right. Roll call, please.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Saleh,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Wyline,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
Mayor, you did that at the front end.
Oh, you
I
did that
did.
already.
Yes, thank you. All righty.
Good enough.
All right, well, we are done with that item.